All right, you guys, so today we're going to talk about electric filing, e-filing, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go through some of the things that I see people doing that I'm not going to call them a mistake. I'm going to call them what not to do. So let's get in. So the first thing that I see a lot of people doing with their electric file is using the wrong angles. Now, I know we talk about this a lot, but I really want to make sure that you guys understand exactly what angle is the correct angle and what angle is too high or cutting into the nail, okay? So, as you're working with whatever bit you're using, you always want to make sure that the bit is parallel to that nail. So you want to make sure that you're following the curve and you're not angling the bit up, okay? Especially when you're using an X-cut or a bit that's got that edge. If you start to angle that bit up, you're going to start to cut into that nail. Now I know I've showed you guys this in the past, but I'd like to go through and show you again. Okay, so if you're working, you're going to be working parallel, following the arch of the nail. Even when you get up to that cuticle area, right here, it may look like you're angling your bit up, but you're still actually parallel onto that acrylic. Now, what we don't want to do is angling the bit up to try to get around that cuticle and to taper that in. So what I'm showing you is angling the bit up so that we're just using that corner. That's what you do not want to do, okay? Because when you come up like that at that angle, that's going to cut in. It may look like it's tapering your product down, but that's actually going to cut down into that nail and leave those rings of fire. So make sure that as you're working, again, you're keeping your bit parallel to the nail. Now let's talk about when you're working on the sidewalls, because a lot of times we come around here and we turn and we look down, straight down the barrel, and we use our bit at an angle like this. Now that is still going to be parallel to that nail. We're not going to be using that corner to cut in. I'm not using the point of my bit to cut in. I'm using more of zone 1. So this whole top part is what I'm going to be using. Okay, so that's still parallel to the side of that nail. It's still following the curve of that arch. Okay, so again, I'm not using that corner. I'm using more of that zone 1, that whole zone 1. Okay, so zone 1 of our bit is going to be the top part here. Zone 2 is going to be the middle part through here. And zone 3 is going to be the base of the bit through here. Okay, again, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. I'm keeping that bit parallel all the way through that whole arch of the nail. So again, on the sides, up through the apex and the arch, and then down to the other side. Again, always keeping that parallel. I'm not using the point of the bit. I'm not using that edge to cut. All right, so second thing of what not to do is forgetting to season your bits. Do not forget to season your bits. Whether you're using an X-cut or a sanding band, you still want to make sure that you're seasoning them. Now what I mean by seasoning your bits is taking off the sharp edges, okay? So to take off your sharp edges, I'm going to start with our arbor band. So when you put a brand new arbor band in, it's going to have the same kind of a sharp edge as a brand new hand file. So when you're working with a hand file, you're always going to use another file to soften up that edge. Same thing with your sanding band or your arbor band. You always want to take off that sharp edge. So to do that, I'm just going to turn the speed of my e-file to about 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs. It doesn't have to be fast, but I'm going to just tap that on my file. So just 1, 2, 3, a couple of quick little taps. You don't have to grind it down, but just enough to soften up that sharp edge so that you're not going to cut your client, okay? Now, a lot of times people don't realize that your X-cut bit also needs to be seasoned. Now, with your arbor bands, you're going to do that for every brand new arbor band. Same thing with your X-cut bit. Whenever you get a brand new X-cut, you're going to season the top and the bottom, okay? Now, only one time is what you're going to season these. You're only going to season these one time when they're brand new. If you season them every time you use them, that's going to dull out your bit, okay? Same technique, you're going to just tap it on your file, do a 1, 2, 3, and then same thing with the base. You're going to tip that in, and again do 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all you need to do. That's enough to where, again, it's going to take off that sharp edge, so you're not going to cut your client when you're working closer to the cuticle. Still want to be careful because it is still a sharp bit, but by just taking off that little bit of that extra, it's going to be much safer. Third thing, what not to do. Using dull bits. So using dull bits, I think, is something that's very common. We spend a lot of money on our tools, we spend a lot of money on our products, and a lot of times we don't want to replace our bits because we think that there's more life to them, okay? I understand, you guys, I get it. I've been in that position where I'm like, I need to get one more use out of this bit, 5 more uses out of this bit. I just got to get through the week with this bit. Let me tell you, if you start to feel like your services are getting slower, it's probably because your bit is getting dull and it's taking you longer to get through that product and file that product out. Another thing is that if your clients are telling you that they're starting to feel heat on their nails when they normally don't, it's probably because, again, you have a bit that's too dull and you're trying to use more pressure to take down that product, okay? So I just want to show you. I'm going to turn my speed up to about 12,000 RPMs. Now this bit, this is one that I've been using and using and using, and I actually wanted to kind of overuse it just to make sure that you guys can see the difference between a new bit and a used bit. But a lot of times this is what we do in the salon. So again, I'm gonna come through. So when you're using a dull bit, you're gonna see it's not gonna take off product. Okay? It's gonna take off kind of that surface, okay? But it didn't break through that color. I'm going to have to go through this over and over and over to be able to remove all of that color. I'm just removing a gel polish, okay? But I'm going to have to go over and over and over and over to really get that product taken down. And I find myself, again, needing to use more pressure to break through that product, okay? Now, I'm going to show you the same technique. I have a brand new bit, never been used. I'm going to take that right out of the package. We'll change that out. We'll put our brand new bit in. Now, I've got the same nail here. I've got base coat, 2 coats of color, and our ultimate finish top coat on both of these nails. Same speed, about 12,000 RPMs. Okay. Now, I've gone through one time. I'm going to come back through, and you can really see that product is starting to come off, okay? Much faster, much easier. Now, as I'm working, again, this is maybe another what not to do bonus, okay? As you're working and that product is starting to come off, do not go over those same areas again, okay? You want to make sure that you're only removing product where there's color, because once you get through that color, you're down to the base coat now. You want to leave that base coat there. You don't want to take that off with your safety bit. So again, you can see how much faster this bit, being brand new, is going to take down my product, okay? So again, that what not to do is don't use your old dull bits. It's going to make your life much easier, your service is much faster if you're using a brand new bit. So another what not to do is using the wrong bit. Now this is, again, something that I find, especially beginners, if you're not quite sure what bits to use, we've got tons of great videos showing you exactly what bit is for what. But one of the main things that I see a lot of people doing is making the mistake of using the either the X-cut or the safety bit instead of an arbor band or a sanding band, okay? Now, I just want to explain. The purpose of either the X-cut or our safety bit, that is for shaving down product, okay? Because it's got that grit to it, it's going to shave down layers of your product really fast and really easily, okay? If you're trying to shave down product with your arbor band, again, that is going to take a lot longer. It's kind of like using that dull bit. It's going to take you a lot longer, and it's going to probably build up a lot of extra heat, so we don't recommend using that arbor band to take down bulk. Now, and the same kind of a situation, if you are prepping that natural nail, What bit do you use? The arbor band, okay? You do not want to use that safety bit or the X-cut on a natural nail because again, it's going to shave down, and we want to make sure that we're not shaving down that natural nail, okay? So to do your prep, anytime you're working on a natural nail, all you're going to do is use your arbor band at about 3,000 to 6,000 RPMs. Let me just turn that down. Okay. So again, it's going to be very gentle. It's just going to be enough to remove shine, okay? Same thing if you're going over that artificial nail. Again, just to lightly remove shine. Now, if we were going to come back in with our safety bit to try to remove shine from the natural nail, what that's going to do, let me turn that speed up. What our safety bit is going to do is it's going to shave off product, or it's going to shave off natural nail, okay? We want to be very careful that you're only using this on an artificial. We don't want to cause extra damage. We don't want to use this on a natural nail, okay? So making sure if you're working over an artificial nail, you can use both of them, but to take down bulk, you're going to use that, the X-cut or the safety bit. When you're working over a natural nail, you're only going to use the arbor band, okay? Now, we do have our diamond bits, and you can use those on a natural nail or an artificial nail as well. For prepping, again, you can use the diamond bit on a natural nail. Okay, one last thing that people tend to make the mistake of is not using the right speed, okay? Okay, with our e-file has a variable speed. So what that means is it can go from 0 all the way up to 30,000 RPMs, okay? It's not just a slow, medium, and fast. It has that variation so that you can use exactly what speed you need to use for what service you're doing, okay? Now, I like to think about our e-file as kind of like in the terms of a car, okay? You don't have a car that just goes slow, medium, or fast. Okay? You have all of those variable speeds so that you can go slow in certain circumstances and you can go fast when you're on the highway and you're driving long distance, okay? So same kind of thing with our electric file. Now, when you're working over an artificial product, that's when you're going to be able to turn your speed up to, usually I do about between 14 to 16,000 RPMs, okay? Now, here's the question that people ask me a lot. Why, if I'm only going to go 14 to 16,000 RPMs at the highest, why does it go up to 30,000? So the reason we're never going to work up to 30,000 RPMs is because that's the maximum speed that your e-file can go. If you're constantly running it at its maximum potential all the time, it's going to wear out that motor. Okay, so that's why we have that ability to go about half of the speed that it's capable of so that you're not going to wear out that motor. Okay, so again, let's talk about what speed to use for what services. Now, if I'm working with my X-cut or my safety bit and I'm trying to take down bulk, I'm going to stick to about 14 to 16,000 RPMs. Okay, by using that at that speed, I'm going to be able to take down product quickly and efficiently, okay, right where I need to. Now, if I turn my speed down to, say, 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs, you can even hear that difference. Okay, it's going to kind of drag over the surface of the nail, and it's not going to have that rotation and that power to really take down that product quickly. Okay, it'll kind of work. I mean, you can see some dust coming off there, but I'm going to have to spend a lot more time and effort to try to get that product off there, okay? So again, what not to do is don't use it at too slow of a speed. You want to turn that speed up, let that e-file do that work for you. And again, by using that higher speed, I'm just floating over the surface of that product. I'm not putting pressure. When I turn that speed down, I feel like I have to apply more pressure to take down that product, okay? So with your safety bit and your X-cuts, definitely make sure that you're turning your speed up and you're working over that artificial nail. Now, on the opposite end, if you're working with that arbor band, so when you're working with that sanding band or the arbor band, you're going to turn your speed lower, okay? So an arbor band is more like a hand file where it's going to just kind of sand the surface, okay? So if you're working around the cuticle, I'm going to turn that up to about 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs. If you're working around the cuticle, you need that lower speed because you don't need to be taking down a lot of product, okay? If we were to turn that speed all the way up, we're going to be taking way too much off that nail, okay? Another thing with that arbor band, when you do have that higher speed, you're going to feel a lot more vibration. It's going to be uncomfortable for you. It's going to be uncomfortable for the client. So make sure that you're only using that arbor band at those lower speeds, okay? So you guys, I hope some of these what not to do's have helped you and help you learn a little bit more on how to use your electric file and how not to use your electric file.
Subscribe channel now. Subscribe channel now. Subscribe to the channel now. Subscribe to the channel